Hey everybody, welcome to...
Wow, right off the bat.
Wow.
Does not
Hey,
bode
now I
well.
don't feel under any pressure.
There you go.
I almost said, hey everybody, welcome to Kill Jaden. Because I always jump down the next line anyway. Hey everybody, welcome to Lions Pride. God,
Okay.
dang, hold
Down.
on.
Boss farts.
Blah, 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 blah.
Red leather, yellow leather.
yellow
I know,
Red,
we
yellow
yeah,
leather.
need to do voice things before we start this.
I kissed an orc and I liked it. The taste of his Bulgur chapstick. I kissed an orc just to try it. I hope my ally friends don't mind it. It felt so wrong, it felt so right. Don't mean I'm in love tonight.
Hey everybody, welcome to Lions Pride Tavern podcast number 56. Tonight we dance with Kill Jaden and find out how we did in this last weekend's raid. Plus, we will announce the winner of our Pirate Transmog tiebreaker contest. But before all that, let's start off with introductions. I'm your host, Fafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. Next up, we have JoeBui
Hi, I'm JoeBui. I play a Worgen Frost Mage.
and Lorelei.
Hi, it's Lorelei, your Night Elf Fury Warrior.
Epistle
Hi, I play a Draenei Protection Pally and like to look very shiny doing it.
Tapachino.
Hey, it's Tapachino, your Night Elf Restoration Druid.
Welcome, guys. Glad to have you all back.
Yeah.
It's nice to be back.
Always.
Yeah, you know, real life. It always gets in the way of our reality, our augmented, or what is it called? Virtual reality.
Mm.
The other reality.
The other
I like to
Yeah, the
call
better
it.
reality.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
You
right?
fall asleep in the movies, there's something wrong with your reality.
Oh, well, let's start right off. JoeBui, recap what we did this weekend.
All right, so on Friday we did our normal thing we've been doing lately, which is going after the last three bosses. Of course, we got to kill Goroth first, and then we make a run through Maiden, Fallen Avatar, and then on to kill Jaden. And this week we plowed right through them. I think it was. Did we do 2 pulls on kill Jaden? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was 2 pulls on kill Jaden, but everything else was one shot this week, which was really great. It was nice to see us just roll right through some of those other bosses, and then we went on to heroic, and we took out Goroth, and we took out Harjutan, and I think that was where we ran out of time for the most part that night. We might have done 1 pull
I think
on
we got
Sisters.
one on Sisters, yep.
Yeah, I think we got 1 pull on Sisters that night.
Barely.
Yeah,
Got
it wasn't really a
spanked.
pull. It was. I think if I recall correctly, it was Fafford like killing us all with his. No, it was Durag. It was.
Oh,
Durag
it was
that did
it was the mouse kill.
It was the mouse kill. Yeah, his mouse
Oh,
stopped
yeah.
working, and he couldn't tell us because his mouse is where he has his push to talk, and he just stood there. And I had aggro, and then Epistle had to pick up aggro because he thought that was the way the fight was going to start, and then he just started getting overloaded, and Durag just stood there, and everybody died.
Well,
No,
yeah,
that
the
was
mechanics.
Saturday night.
The mechanics
Yeah.
of
Unless
that.
it happened again. You're talking
No, that was Saturday. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
that was
okay.
Saturday? Oh.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, because
Was that on
Yeah.
Saturday?
I
Yeah,
thought
'cause
we,
I
I thought
couldn't
we
make
had
it
gotten
Friday.
a pull on Friday night.
We might have.
Saturday,
In any case,
I wasn't there Friday, but Saturday I remember him saying, "Oh, my mouse
Yeah,
is
it was.
stuck," and
We
blah
did
blah
do it
blah.
Friday
Alright.
because I had to ask which way we were going because I thought we were going to Sisters. We
right.
had gotten
Okay.
one. We had done 1 pull.
We did 1 pull on that night in any case, and then we came back on Saturday and we did some more heroic. We spent the first hour wiping on Sisters of the Moon, and decided to change it up, and we went after Demonic Inquisition and got Demonic Inquisition down on our first attempt on that one, which was really cool.
Yep, up and down.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then
that was interesting.
it, you know I had heard it described as pretty difficult, but I actually really enjoyed it. And then we went on to try out. I think we made a poll on Mistress Zine after doing the world boss in there, and we didn't do very well on Mistress Zine on that one. I mean, we tried, but we didn't get super far. We'd done better in the past on that fight. And then that was where the week ended. That's where we finished
Yeah,
off.
we had a few little issues with some of the traps, but other than that, it was
Yeah.
fun.
We did so well for the longest time on the traps.
We just left it sitting there like we were never going to walk into it, and no one was ever going to touch it.
And then somebody did
And
because they have to.
I thought the world boss was actually not bad. I mean, consider is that done on heroic as well? Whatever we go
Yeah,
in as,
that was done on heroic.
because it didn't seem any harder than when we do a world boss on regular. Unless that's just me, or is
That
that
doesn't have
world
too
boss?
many mechanics going on it. It just pretty much just go in there and kill it.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
that we kept.
You have to go through
there
the
were-
800 NPCs to get there.
There were
Yeah.
4 traps all the way around the world boss, and
That
we
everybody
pulled
set
every
up.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like
That's what we do
I-
best.
Yeah, they're like, oh, there's traps. Oh, that must be part of the boss mechanic. So they're
Well, we left the one alone, but then we had to
Right.
do all 4 of those.
Gotta
Well,
make
Tap
it
thought it
up.
was too easy, right? Tap was like,
Right,
"Oh, this
yeah.
is not hard. This boss is so okay. Well, let's get all the traps and see if it keep it interesting for her."
She's I don't
There
know.
we go. Make it challenging.
Tap's like, I don't even have to trank and run. I just have to trank. It's too easy.
I thought she chanted tranking and dying, tranking and dying.
That's what I heard.
What's on the other one?
Yep.
Drinking and dying. I don't like that expression.
Right?
But it was
So,
it
yeah.
was a generally good week of rating though. We definitely and I think I honestly think that we'll probably have Demonic Inquisition on our list of like go to as well as like Gorath and Harshtan from now on
Yeah,
on our heroic runs.
absolutely.
And it really surprised me that we got that down on the first pull because
Yeah.
of the new mechanics. And it's like, all right, if you can get this down on a first pull and you've never seen those 2 mechanics, you should have Maiden of Vigilance down.
Right. Now,
Why can't you do that? It's just got 1 mechanic right now. You should be able to
Sisters,
do it.
where we spent all of our time on, Sisters is a little more involved. Now, in normal, it's not that bad. Everything seems to come a little quicker on Sisters.
The
Yeah.
other thing is what I noticed is people are ignoring the glaives. And they're just
I
letting
think you're right.
themselves
Yeah.
at one point I was dead and so I had time to watch things, but I saw glaives bouncing from one person to the next. So and people were just standing there. So that is a mechanic you cannot ignore.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I
we may
think
have to.
Jay said she got hit double time, twice in one
Yeah.
of them.
Because it bounces into what 4 or 4, 6
Yeah, I think
at 1.6.
Yeah, it multiplies after it hits. I know I got killed by the glaives once. I was near one of the walls and my camera angle wasn't very good and I didn't really see it coming, and all of a sudden, bam! I got hit by. I was like a little bit out from the wall, and the main glaive hit me, and then it split, and each of the smaller glaives hit me as well, and then I died pretty much instantly from that because I was right against the wall where it hit. And that was just like I just didn't see it. But yeah, I saw people getting hit by the glaives. The other thing I saw too in that fight was, like we have to spread out in one part of the raid to or one part of that fight, to avoid taking or giving damage to other players from those little shields that get on us. And we would get spread out, and I started getting chased by players out of my position because like I would be in a good spot where there was nobody around me, and then I would see somebody like come just rushing right through like all the people that were standing there, like kind of invading our 8-yard space, and I had to like try and move to avoid them as they were incoming.
Yeah, and Darg and I were also trying to figure out, if we could change how we tanked and where we were positioning and try to minimize that. And so we did start to switch it up a little bit. that we tanked instead of dead center, just sort of a third to one side, hoping that that would minimize damage. It probably helped a little bit, but we'll have to keep working on perfecting that.
I did think we did better towards the end on the, I forget the name of it, but it's the one with the red laser beam and the red arrow that everybody has to stack with.
Yeah, that one got me a couple times.
But towards the last few pulls, I thought people were doing a lot better on that particular mechanic. Except for the fact that they were stacking up for that one, and then the entire group was getting hit by a glaive, which was not good. But they were doing better at the stacking to absorb that damage, so that was good.
The incorporeal shot.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
might be the one.
Yeah, there's just, and then we talked about, dropping your stacks off earlier, and I noticed that there was 5 or 6 players that were waiting still till it got to 12. So there's a few things we just need to clean up.
Yeah, I know on occasion I got caught without clearing my stacks because I was doing some other mechanic, and I didn't get over to the other side to clear my stacks out because I was doing some mechanic, and then I had extra stacks on myself, which then I would do when that did happen was I tried to get into position so that as soon as it changed, because the only time I got caught with the extra stacks was when it went to like full moon kind of thing, and then I would get into position so that I was ready for the change side of it. So as soon as it started changing again, it would clear my stacks.
I was noticing that we could kind of preemptively clear if people got a reminder. So I was calling that out. I don't know if it was helpful or not.
It was
That
it
is
was
very
definitely
helpful.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Because I was thinking that was, because I knew as a tank, if I didn't get it done, then I'd get pretty badly pounded standing in the middle. So I was starting to figure out the rhythm of it, which was good.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
I was thinking I might also. I'm thinking I'm probably going to make up a week or that just puts a large number on the screen showing the number of stacks that you have currently.
Yeah, that by itself would be nice and simple, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
just a large number. It's not, and I'm not even going to say what it is on it. It's not going to say like stacks or Umbra stacks or something. But I was just thinking like a large number, and then once it gets over 6, then I'll have another thing that pops up that says clear your stacks.
Yeah, I would
And then
definitely do that.
And the number will keep going up, but it'll say clear your stacks. Maybe if it gets to like 10 stacks, then I change the letters to like red flashing jumping letters with exclamation marks. Clear your
With
stacks.
a
Or-
huge horn going off.
Wah! Clear your stacks.
Yeah. Or you could just have just one number that's a nice little green number, and it's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then changes to yellow, 5, 6, 7, red, 8, 9. Scream.
Right.
Yeah, no, we're not demanding at all. So
No, actually, that's not that difficult to make. Actually, they've got some really cool stuff with conditional things in WeakOrs now that I can like change the color of the font based on how many stacks it has and stuff like that. It's pretty powerful now.
That'd be really nice.
We're creating our own Deadly Boss mods now. We're really progressing, aren't we?
well, that's all right. So because we got a fantastic comment on JoeBui's last one, and Lorelai's going to read the fan comment, but it was posted on his what was that? That's Maiden of Vigil. No, that's Maiden, I think. When you posted your add-on for that one on the website, he commented below it. So Lorelai, why don't you read that from Cuddly?
Okay. We got a message from Cuddly Bruce. Don't know what server you're on, but she says, fantastic show. I used to listen to several WoW podcasts. Now I have been them all for the #1 show. Thank you, ladies and gents, for a fantastic podcast. I have the show on auto download and sometimes listen to it a couple of times. Also, I haven't missed a podcast. Listen to all of them. Pandas rule.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it was awesome. He's got 2 little panda faces right before he's like Panda's rules. So I'm guessing he really liked Mr. Pandaria.
Wait, he's
But
doing
yeah.
better on the podcast than I
Who
am.
didn't like Mrs. Pandaria?
Yeah, I made a lot of. Well, no, that was WAD. I made a lot of money in WAD. So yeah, that was on JoeBui's add-on he made for WeakOrs that he posted that on. So that was awesome.
Cool.
And when we get this one down, JoeBui, if it works out and it works out well, and we all think it does, and we'll have you post it on the website for that too.
Yeah, we'll have to test it out this next week, see if it helps out, and then if it does and everything's working and there are no bugs, because I don't want to post it until after I have a chance to try it, because there
Right.
is the occasional bug. Then well, yeah, we can get that posted up maybe after next week's show.
Yeah, that would be great. So, so we were doing, let's see, Sisters of the Moon, and we spent a lot of time on her. So, you guys got any more comments on that? Whether we should do something different, or is it just? I personally think it's just people need to learn the speed of what's going on, the extra mechanics that came up. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so too. I think we just got to get used to it.
Yeah, and I think it's just reminders to do things and be proactive, because I know, I mean, I got hit by the glaives too. I mean, I'm not perfect on that at all. But what I try to do is position myself so that I am looking at the cat. Wherever it moves, I turn so I can see it, so I can see where that first glaive is coming from, because that glaive targets somebody, I believe. And that person's, wherever that person is, that's very important. They need to make sure they're not standing in melee. And I think a lot of times it was somebody in melee getting targeted. So it was coming through us the first time and then coming back and hitting us a second time.
How do you
So maybe like
how do
a
your tanks position? Because I'm sorry to tap. I was just
Oh.
sort of wondering how do you do the positioning, because that seems to be important. Because like, could we as tanks move differently to
Yeah.
maybe make that clearer?
Probably. I mean, I would say make sure that the boss is kept in the center as much as possible, because a lot of times when we got hit with the first one, the boss was over on the side of one of the walls.
And see, we were starting to think we actually had to move not to the side, but more towards the sort of like outside third of the center ring.
I don't know.
So
We
the
usually
actual
keep her in the center.
we're starting to think that the center might not be ideal though for people having enough reaction time to avoid the glaives.
And I think that's where I try to make sure that I'm facing where the cat is, because then I can see if there's an arrow. I can, if it's a message, I know that, oh, it's coming for me. I need to run away from it and get out of the group with it. And that
But
way I can
for-
see when it splits as well. I can try. Now that's usually where I get caught, is with the small ones, because I think I've got space to get around one, but I don't. Yeah, that's because also one of the problems was when the boss was over toward the side, then ranged was moving up, maybe because they were out of range, and then they were dropping those big circles in the middle. And once we get toward the end of the fight, if stuff's in the middle, we don't have any room to go. And that happened at least once, I remember.
Yeah, that's another thing that really needs to get cleaned up on that fight is where players are dropping those volleys, those large circles with the arrows that drop in them. Because I saw them getting dropped in the middle, and there was times where there was whole sections of the room that were kind of cut off where you couldn't even get to them towards the end of the fight, because players were not getting those all the way to the wall like they should be.
Well, I think what was happening there, Jobui, is that the ranged had died off, and the volleys were now going to the melee. Because
Yeah.
I watched everybody, especially the ranged, I watched a lot of them go to the outside wall and just kind of stay there during the fight. And then when the volleys dropped, it only did half a circle because the other half was outside the room, which is the
Right.
proper way to do it. But I
Sure.
think once the range had died off, because if you're clear on the outside and you don't see the arrow in your view, all of a sudden here comes a glaive and you don't have time to move. I actually got a big glaive and a volley on me at the same time. I think that was because I was one of the last range that were up, and it didn't have anybody else to choose from. But that was interesting because I moved, and then the volley slowed me, and I couldn't shoot, and then the glaive hit me, and I died.
That was something that actually happened to me as well at one point, because most of the players were dead, and it was towards the end of our attempt, and I had pretty much every possible thing go on me like multiple times. I got the volley on me like twice in a row, plus the one that you have to purge by going from one side to the other.
Yep.
What is it? Arcane burn or something burn?
Something
Moonburn.
burn, yeah. Moonburn.
Moonburn. I had Moonburn on me, and it was those volley things, and then the glaives were firing at me, and I'm like, oh, just stop, please stop. And then I got killed finally by like the constant barrage of mechanics. I couldn't even cast a spell. I was just blinking and running and getting hit and trying to avoid stuff. It was
Jabui.
hellacious.
Yeah,
Now
I think
try
there's
that as a
there's a
healer.
developer. There's a developer who has it in for you, and just every raid is like, okay, how do we just tweak the raid mechanics so that Jobui always gets everything?
Yeah. But it's not normally that bad. It's normally it gets spread out. But towards the end of that fight, I was like, oh, another one. Wait, no, another one. And I couldn't even. I began to like panic react to all the mechanics that were attacking me.
So back to the glaives. Now, Lorelei, you said you face the cat. Is that the one that tosses it?
Yeah.
Now, as healers, we're not able to like really, I hate to say it, pay attention to what the bosses or the ads are doing so much as trying to keep people healed up. So what would be a good strategy for the healers? I mean, if somebody is I know it gets posted up on DBM. It tells you who's got the glaives. Are they supposed to go to the sides and get out of the way of everybody?
Yeah, I think it's best if they try to run it to the side wall. That way it'll bounce off that wall first before it goes anywhere else. And that can be hard to do if you're melee, but this fight is so positional. Everybody has to be watching all of those things.
Yeah.
So as a healer, I know it's hard for y'all to do it because you're watching the frames, but it's still just a matter of, even out of the corner of your eye, kind of put yourself so that you don't have your back to where the cat is, so that you can see it when that first big glaive
And
comes out.
truthfully, I didn't even know there was a cat in the room. Is it
Yes,
like
that's it's
a
in
big
phase 2,
cat?
and she's on the cat.
All
Yeah.
right, so the cat is the one that was the glaives.
Yep.
And also the one that throws out the beam that goes between, that everybody has to get between you and that cat to absorb damage so you don't take it all.
Yeah.
Because
Now,
We
let's-
just have to get used to being able to see where those are and which direction they're going to be in, the direction that it's going to be thrown.
Yeah, because I was literally standing in front of the cat and got the beam. And Jobui was like, yeah, I saw you. You were trying to run across the room and didn't get very far.
Oh, is that when you hip checked me right into it?
Yes, that's when I got you. I was like, I got to give Taps some love.
And you
I
did.
had to get one person between us.
I'm like, what the heck hit me? I didn't even know.
Yeah, that's because I was standing right next to him. So that was a good learning experience for me. I was like, oh, stay away from that guy.
Yeah. Well, we'll get it. We always do.
Yeah, well, and,
Yep.
we were getting to the point where we were getting frustrated. So, that's when we decided, and I think that's when my mic went out, but we decided to drop down and do Demonic Inquisition.
I mean, I think we did make progress.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think by the time we were finishing, I felt like, oh, I'm just a little more aware of what's going on. I'm just, clearer about the positioning, the mechanics, everything that's going on. So I just feel more comfortable with kind of that environment.
Yeah, but it was a good idea to take a break and move on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we took our frustrations out on that Inquisitor. Because we can one-shot that dude.
Yep.
So Durag was telling me what happened with him is it wasn't just his mouse. It was his entire USB port that went all the drivers went down for his USBs. He actually had to restart and bring them all back up because
Wow.
none of them were working. And it was just out of the blue. Now, here's the interesting part. My mic was also USB, and I don't know what it is about Microsoft, but I think when they have a patch they want you to do, and I don't let it auto shut down and restart. I just funny that way. I'll see that I have it, and then I'll shut down and restart my computer and let it do its install. But when it does, funky things happen. My sound will go out. I won't be able to play a video. It's always something small, nothing major, but it's annoying. And you're like, oh, I better shut down and restart. And then as soon as I do, it comes up going, oh, look, you had a WoW, or not a WoW, but a Microsoft patch. So, we were talking about that after the raid going, well, maybe that's what it was. Because when we both shut down and restarted, my mic came back, all his USB stuff came back. I don't know.
It is
I'll
kind of
blame
fishy.
Microsoft anyway.
Yeah.
They must have a hunter.
Yeah. All right. So other than that, yeah, look at us go, man. We take out the last 3 bosses on normal. We jumped right into heroic, and we took down Garoth, Demon, our Demonic Inquisition, Harjatan, and then worked on Sister. Well, and did 1 pull on Sazine. So, yeah, that wasn't. What was it, Charity that brought in one of her friends? He was like, hey,
yeah.
can I join you? And she's like, we're just about ready to end. And he gets the 1 pull, and it's like, okay, we're done.
We're
Hey,
done.
thanks a lot.
Thanks, bye.
That was funny.
Yeah, the one very unsuccessful pull.
All right, guys, that's great. Let's. I think we should move on to our dancing with the boss, and it's the last boss. Kill Jaeden. It's so nice to get this guy down now. So, JoeBui, why don't you start off? Dancing with the Boss is basically something we started up where we talk about from our perspective as our particular type of player we are, DPS, melee, ranged, heals, and tank on the Kill Jaeden fight. And JoeBui will talk about ranged.
Okay, so in the Kill Jaeden fight, usually what I like to do is position myself somewhere like around the center, but not like in the middle of the platform, sort of towards one of the outsides, about halfway towards the outsides at the beginning of the fight, just so that I'm in a position where I can easily get to any of the Armageddons that are going to show up, which there are 2 kinds. There's rain and hail. Now, hail is a larger swirl, and then the rain is a smaller swirl. We usually just call them large swirly or small swirlies of Armageddon. So I position myself out there so I'm in range of the boss. The countdown timer comes up. I pre-pot. I start blasting the boss with everything I got pretty much at that point. Just hit him as hard as I can. Now, because I'm a DPS that has a shield with my ice block, where I can take no damage, I'm on a list of players that is set up to handle the Armageddon hails, which is the large swirlies. Lately I've been going second or third or so. So the first one that comes out, if I'm not up to take the large one, and I haven't taken a small Armageddon, then when the Armageddons pop up and they're all around on the ground, I look for one that is empty. If I'm not responsible for the large one, I look for a small one that's empty, and I get into it and I stay in there, and I'll pop my personal little shield, my ice barrier, and I'll stand in that one and keep DPSing Kill Jaeden and absorb that. But that gives me a 1-minute debuff, which I monitor. I made a weak aura for that, so I can keep an eye on that. It's also on your debuffs bar if you want to look down there. And then I just don't take another small Armageddon until that debuff is gone, which it lasts 60 seconds. And then I just keep DPSing the boss and handling the Armageddons as necessary or as I'm capable or required to do until we get to the first intermission. At that point, there's also another mechanic that comes out called the bursting. I think it's what's it? What is the name of it? The what?
Bursting Dread Flame?
Yes, the bursting dread flame, I believe, is when that starts to show up. It's right at the beginning of that, which it puts a huge circle around a number of players, and those players need to get away from other players so as to not damage them. So if I get that on myself, I try and get to the edge so that I'm not damaging anybody else. I continue to try and handle the Armageddons as they pop up whenever I can. And also I look for there's a focused red flame that happens as well, which is one player gets targeted, and then other players have to line up with that player to help absorb the damage. So I look for that and try and absorb those. Meanwhile, I just keep DPSing the boss. Well, in the first intermission, I don't DPS the boss very much at all. I might do it a little bit just to build up stacks of procs, because you can still generate procs on, like Brain Freeze or Fingers of Frost or something like that. So I'll still occasionally DPS the boss just to generate procs, but otherwise I don't, because the boss doesn't. He's like 99% invulnerable at that point, so you're not really going to take him down by keep attacking him. And then we get into the second phase. Second phase, we hero, and then I just blast the boss as hard as I can. And if I happen to grow, I'm still dealing with all the other mechanics that I was dealing with previously. If I happen to grow large, I get underneath the boss, because that means that I'm going to drop an ad wherever I happen to be standing when that spell is finished. But I want to drop that underneath the boss most of the time. The only time I wouldn't want to drop it underneath the boss is if the boss is close to 40% health, in which case I want to drop it someplace else away from the boss, in a group with the other large players, because it's usually three players that get turned into a large ad. And so then I want to drop that off someplace away from the boss so we can kill those ads and then push the boss over 40% health, which will take us to the next phase. At that point, I have to find Illidan, which usually with the help of our hunters will mark a spot on the map, and we can get to Illidan and get the Sightless Gaze so that I can attack there's these aberrations that show up. They're kind of like shadow spirit things that are around there. We run around in the darkness trying to kill them, and continually going back to pick up our debuff from Illidan. So we can attack those things and be healed by our healers. We get through that phase, and then we're into the third and final phase, which is pretty much, there's less mechanics there. We don't have the Armageddons anymore at that point, but we still have the bursting dread flames and the focused dread flames, and then a new mechanic, which is a Darkness of 1,000 Souls spell. So right after we get into the third phase, everybody stacks up in the middle, and we do that. So that we can all absorb, the heals and stuff, and not take as much damage. But then after that, I bounce in and out of there's a rift, which has like a kind of a sketchy yellow line around the corners, and I kind of let myself get slid towards that, because there's like a pushback that's going to gradually slide me towards that, which I'll just kind of ride out and keep DPSing the boss, handling any other mechanics that pop up, and when he's about to cast Darkness of 1,000 Souls, just as the cast is about to finish, I'll step inside that tear rift, and that'll protect me from the Darkness of 1,000 Souls spell, and then I immediately get back out of that, because that does do 600,000 damage to you every second that you happen to be standing in that rift. So it's good not to stand in there for very long. There was one other mechanic that we deal with, which is the singularities. Which the singularities are things that come down, and they will cause you to get blasted back. And if you're directly underneath the singularity, it will damage you. And then there's also these pylons that come up during the third phase that you have to avoid, that shoot beams across the thing. There's a lot going on in this fight. Most of the time, really what I'm doing is I'm just trying to deal with all of the crazy mechanics that are coming at me. Trying to make sure I'm getting in those big Armageddons whenever I need to, and handling the small ones whenever I'm available to do so. And then I DPS the boss in between mechanics, because the DPSing really comes secondary to handling mechanics in that fight.
Yes, very, very true. And that's what I was going to say, is that it's more important to learn the mechanics and learn what's coming at you and when and how to deal with them than it is to, really be concentrating too much on the DPS. That'll get you in trouble. If you're single-minded focused on DPS, something's going to go wrong. You're going to be standing in the wrong spot. You're going to be, when the ball comes down, you're going to be in the rift, You just, or you're thrown off the side because you don't know which side the ball's coming down on, which corner, and you may be standing too close to the opposite corner, and when it throws you back, throws you right off the fight. So,
Yeah. Because that singularity that I didn't mention from the earlier phases, that wheel, that kicks you back a good, maybe 30, 40 yards. So you have to really make sure that you're not near one of the edges from where that thing is coming from.
Yeah. And there's, like JoeBuoy was saying, there's stuff you can do to counteract a lot of it. You could put a marker on one person and everybody go to him when to that person when the pylons come out. Because sometimes it's tough to see where they're all at, depending on where you're standing. We have our rotation for our big swirlies for Armageddon, like he was saying. So there's little things you can do to combat it. This is a very technically challenging fight, but it's all about learning the mechanics and what to do during them.
And while it may sound daunting, because that was a really long list of mechanics that I have to deal with, that all players really have to deal with. If you're new to the Kill Jaeden fight, don't be too freaked out by that long list. You will get used to it, because when we first started doing that fight, it seemed like, wow, this is too many mechanics. But as we've done it more and more, you get used to it, and it begins to feel a rhythm.
Yeah, I think the explanation for the fight was longer than the actual fight itself.
Yeah.
So, Lorelei, what do you got to add for dancing with the boss, Kill Jaeden?
Not too much. Melee's job is to stay behind the boss at all times. We go out for the small swirlies, so that's where Heroic Leap helps me. Sometimes I can see if I see one that's out. Sometimes the boss is covering it up. I can't see it until it's too late, but I can try to leap out to it so I can help with the little ones. We have to worry about the dread flames and the focus bursts. And one thing that I was thinking about that we're doing in my group is after the first rupturing singularity, because the next ones will always show up in a corner, that we run toward it. Then after the second one and the third one, we run toward it so that when we get pushed back, nobody's got a chance of falling off the platform. So I don't know if that's something we want to try and get people used to, but it's an idea.
Could. My thing is, what I do is I just, no matter what corner it comes down into, when I start to hear it coming down, I go to the center.
Yeah.
I just go to the center of the platform, and then no matter what direction it's at, it'll blow you back, but not off the platform.
Mm-hmm. So that's otherwise everything JoeBuoy said is what we do too. We just have to make sure for melee is that you're behind the boss, because the fell claws that the boss does will really take you out quickly.
Okay.
So again, we have to be situational, especially in that last phase where we're being pulled toward the rift. It's real easy for the boss to get turned around because you're trying to move and stay behind him and not get sucked into the hole. It's very easy to slip around into the front of the boss by mistake.
Well, not just for melee. I've done that as range too.
It's a cone. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So Epistle, tanking, I know Durag always yells out something about the claws.
Yep, the Fell Claws. This is a tank killer boss. In many ways, we don't have it hard as tanks on this. It's actually a lot easier than a lot of other fights. We do some of the positioning that's been discussed about already, and so we have to be on top of that and making sure the boss is faced away. But the thing we really have to be on top of our game for is the Fell Claws. This is a punishing fight for tanks. So we do a tank swap, and we need to have it set up that one of the tanks is not in the front of the boss, because you don't want to get one of these debuffs. And they stack, so you get up to 5 debuffs of this, and then we switch. But when you first get the boss, the temptation is to use mitigation immediately, because he's hitting you before even the Fell Claws come out. He's doing a lot of damage. And the healers have to be aware that they're switching from healing one tank to the other tank when that threat gets shifted, because they need some big heals right off the start. So I tend to try to hold off any of my cooldowns and just make sure I've saved all of my active mitigation before I pull. So sometimes I even just set up before I kind of move into position that I've got my Shield of the Righteous, or my Avenger's Shield, which gives me a little mitigation, or my Consecration. I'm all ready to put those down there to give myself just that little extra bit of protection. You really need to save it for later, because by the time you get to 3, 4, 5 stacks, your health can go from 100% down to 25. It's just a huge set of hits. So self heals, you got to be totally on top of your game. That's like the tank's A game for trying to handle incoming damage. And so you got a few moments of intensity followed by, not too much going on, standing on the side, hitting the boss, moving around a little bit. But other than that, that's the piece that really for a tank is very, very vivid. You just got to be on top of it. If you're not using active mitigation, unless you have godly healers, you're gone.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Tapachino from healing killed Jaeden.
We heal.
Yeah.
Lots.
All right.
Lots.
A lot.
A lot. Yeah, a lot. I
I-
tend to like to stay kind of in the middle through most of the fight. It's just easier to reach everybody, and as far as like the Armageddons go, I'll keep my eye out on the little ones. Most of the time, they're already covered, but we all need to be prepared, to grab one if if one's not covered. So dash comes in very handy for, a druid being able to get there quickly. When we get into the part where you go into that dark part, I forget what phase that is. Is it the second phase? We go into the dark area. Once we find
Yes.
Illidan, we find Illidan, I'll pretty much stay near him, and we can throw our circles down and heal people as they come in, and we get that buff again. But yeah, a lot of healing and a lot of stuff going on. So we have to follow the mechanics too, which is why it's really important. Like Jobui was saying, don't concentrate so much on the DPS if you're having to avoid some of the mechanics that are going on. That's much more important, because we're doing the same thing too. So if the DPS and the tanks aren't following mechanics and they're taking a lot of damage, we're not going to be able to keep you up, because we're doing the same thing, trying to follow the mechanics and keep everybody healed up. So that's pretty huge. But it's healing a lot, following mechanics, and going under the guy if we ever get big. I've never gotten big myself, so I haven't experienced that, but hearing from others, I would know what to do anyways. Doing the dance at the third phase, not getting too close to the rift and not getting too far away, and fortunately we do have our trank and run, so that's very handy as well. So basically heal a lot, watch the mechanics, and kill Jaeden.
Yeah. Kill Jaeden.
Kill Jaeden.
Kill Jaeden.
So that brought up an interesting point I didn't even think about with Tapachino. She said she's never gone where you have to kill her clone. Have any of you guys seen a healer that got big like that and you had to kill it? I think it's always been DPS.
I don't know. I don't usually keep track of the names.
Yeah, I'll have to pay attention. I do, because
that's a good.
I'm always like, oh, I'm killing Bronzebeard. Yeah. Oh, I'm killing myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
I
only
don't
ever
know.
noticed DPS. It might be a DPS only thing.
Yeah, it's not tanks.
Yeah, it's definitely not tanks. I don't recall ever seeing a healer under there. I've definitely remember seeing lots of DPS names, including my own. So
So you
That
might,
is a good question.
Yeah. We'll have to keep an eye on that, and we'll talk about it next podcast. So, well, that's Dancing with the Kill Jaeden boss. We made it sound really easy, but it's really not that difficult once you get the mechanics down. It's just learning what to do during the mechanics, really. So, Lorelei, we're going to touch on the Nomuragan race again. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little info, and I'll explain what we're doing on our end.
Okay. Now there are 2 events going on in October as far as the run. The Great Nomaragan Run is going to be on Saturday, October 14th. This is the one that Blizzard has sanctioned and has put into the game. And as far as I've seen on a video, it looks like anybody can do it, and it's a solo race. I don't know what's involved, and I haven't looked at the whole video, just enough to see that it was definitely not a level 1. But there's I don't have the name of that server either.
Scarlet Crusade?
The server is Scarlet Crusade. I didn't put down the name of the guild.
All right.
But on the Scarlet Crusade on the US server, they are holding the original Nomaragan race for Cancer. And you can start with a level 1 toon, a level 1 gnome, and they will pull you into a couple of their guilds that have been set up just for the race. And that way they can keep track of who's in the race and who's doing what. And we decided that Goblin Goldcast had talked about doing it, and we decided we were going to do it too. So I'll let you talk more about that, Fafford.
Yeah. So I did talk to Mac. He's right in the middle of moving, so it's tough to get a hold of him. But he definitely said him and Dex are up for it, and they're going to get their fans over too. They're going to put GG in front of their name when they make their tunes. And we suggest that if you're a Lions Pride Tavern listener over the Goblin Goldcast, that you put LPT in front of your name. So it would be like your name would be LPT Fafford. Now, obviously, some of the names are really long, like Mommy Fortuna, so she could only get Mommy on there. That's fine, just as long as you got LPT there. That way, when we're all running, everybody can see, a big group. We're inviting our fans. Please, guys, go ahead, get on the Scarlet Crusade, make a tune, make sure it's got pink hair, it's a gnome, it's got LPT in front of it. Leave it right there at the starting location. Don't try to leave Nomaragan, whatever it's. I hate gnomes. But I'm even doing this. I know. I said it.
No gnome hate.
And
no
they
gnome
and they
hate.
have no pallies. Something's wrong with that.
No pallies. Yep.
No.
So, and then what we've done is we're going to invite our fans. I've went ahead and created the guild Lions Pride Tavern on Scarlet Crusade. It went up live today. So we now have a guild there. So when you're done with the race, you can leave the race guild and be invited to the Lions Pride Tavern guild. And what we're hoping to do, since we're going to have all these gnomes, is eventually get those tunes up and do gnome raids with all gnomes with pink hair.
Yeah.
We'll live stream it. We'll talk about it on the podcast, but that's going to be a little while, because, people, I started leveling this one tune just to get to level 10 to make a guild. And I was like, oh my God, I don't miss leveling a level 1 tune at all.
Yeah, it's going to take you. It's going to take me a lot. I have no time to level a tune right now.
I started off, I got to level 3 before I went, heirloom gear. Holy moly, I forgot all about it. And
Yeah,
then I
that's the
just
only saving
bang,
grace.
bang up in level.
Now, for the race, though, right? You're not supposed to use your mounts. You're not supposed to
Nope.
use any of those sorts of things. It's really just totally old school
Yes.
for that
Get out
part.
on the street and run.
And you will die repeatedly,
Many
just so
times.
people know
Many times.
that's actually part of the fun.
It's
Exactly.
fun.
Which to
So-
me, this just sounds like a ride. I've so been looking forward to this.
Oh, I'm glad we're doing this. I love gnome races.
Epistle texts me. He goes, when is it? This Saturday? I'm like, no.
No, I thought it was Wednesday. I thought
October.
it was
Oh, that's right, Wednesday. I was like,
Last
no, it's in
Wednesday.
October.
There are videos out there that you
Yes.
can watch, just because there's one where a bunch of gnomes went out to raid Orgrimmar. Of course, they did not get very far, but they
Yeah.
did a Congo line to get into Orgrimmar.
Now there is from what are we supposed to stay in Nomaragan initially? Are we supposed to stay down in there?
Well,
Or,
yeah,
like-
so when you first make your tune, you start off right there. Just stay
Right.
right there. And when the race starts, you start from there, go out of Nomaragan, and then run to wherever they
Yeah,
tell
I think
us.
they'll tell you to start as soon as you get outside.
Okay, because like the thing is that there's certain hairstyles that are only available if you go to the barber shop, and it's
Right.
not available for my gnome
Oh my
unless
God.
unless
Oh
I go to a
Lord,
barber
yeah.
shop.
Oh no.
I want the mohawk.
It will not be
Yeah, you
fashionable
want-
enough
So,
for you.
When
Oh,
you
wants to
finish the
stop the big
race, the
city
mohawk
first.
will be your treat to yourself.
There you go.
Oh, I see. So I have to run with bad hair.
Yeah, bad
like, to get
hair,
the good
bad
hair.
clothes, no shoes,
Sorry,
all
Joey.
that
Bad
good
pants,
stuff.
bad everything.
And we're gonna video every moment of it.
See, I was
Yeah.
gonna have like a great big pink mohawk, and instead I have like a bald pate with like a spiky, I don't know, like rim of hair
Well,
around the
fashion
outside.
first, function no.
I-
Function first, fashion later.
First.
I did the huge curly Q mustache. That's what I had to do. the Snidely Whiplash mustache, but it's pink. No, it's going to be a load of fun. We've got I know of at least 3 people that are going to be live streaming it, and we'll get all their information. So if you can't participate, you can definitely come watch. I know several of our guild members have already made tunes and are awaiting, but fans, please join us and then get on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Lions Pride Tavern. Let us know, just throw a comment in there saying, hey, I'm in Scarlet Crusade and I've got my gnome ready, so that way we can look for your name, because we have no idea what tune name you'll go by other than the fact that you'll have LPT in front of it. So
Oh, did we say the time? And I just missed it?
no, we don't have a time yet. It's October 14th is when the run is, which is a Saturday, but we don't know what time it starts. And
No,
when
we're
the
gonna
time gets
go
closer,
as
we
a
can find
guild,
out.
yeah,
like, as a group
Well,
guild.
we'll start off that way, because the idea
Yeah,
is just
well-
to get there wherever they tell us to go.
I think it would just be interesting to see all of our dots.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no,
Since
we
we'll
don't.
be
Okay.
in a guild that they've created just
Yes.
for this, so we'll see everybody's. I mean, there's going to be thousands of people. There was like
Yeah.
over 2,000-3,000 people last year.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
but when it's all over, I have created a Lions Pride Tavern guild. So then you leave their race guild when the race is over, and you can join the LPT guild and have a tune at the Lions Pride Tavern guild, which, there's not much in there because I'm still trying to make gold, but I'm using a couple of Goblin Gold Cast secrets
Ah,
to make gold. I went in and I took the 2 professions for gathering, mining and herbs, and I just went to one mine and like 3 herbs, went to the auction house, put them up, made 10 gold. I was like, yeah, that's enough to get the guild charter. Well, then it's also 10 gold to design the tabard. So I was like, oh, I need more gold. So I went, oh, I wonder how this server is doing. So I went in and I sniped the server. And that's what that means is you look for items that are below vendor price. And it's what's it called? Trade Skill Master. Trade Skill Master has a search you can do. And it'll search for all the items that are below vendor price. And I bought all of them. Well, the one I bought was like a 6 gold weapon. And I went to sell it and it was 23 gold to sell to the vendor. So, I mean,
Oh, nice.
yeah. And then my herbs sold and I found a couple other sniping items. I found one that were like, oh, the guy's selling them for like 2 copper each, but they sold for 2 silver, but he had 60 of them. So I bought them all up and turned around and sold them to the vendor and made 9 more gold. It's like, man, this is the way to start out.
there you go.
Wish I'd
So-
known that in the beginning.
Yeah, right? So now I'm running around. I've got about 150 gold. So I'll get there, because I'm leveling my hunter. Not my gnome hunter. I'm leveling the hunter that's going to be the guild master. So it'll all be good. So we have it all set up for you once the race is over. But for right now, guys, go ahead and make your tune on Scarlet Crusade, level 1 gnome with pink hair, and stay right there where you start. All right, I think it's time. Cue the music. It's time for Lorelei's Pet Battle Minute.
Hi, Today, I'd like to combine pets and fishing. With patch 7.3 comes some new fishing masters. 6 new reputations have been added to the game, and these fishing masters are similar to Margos on the island off Dalaran. Each zone in the Broken Isle, including the Broken Shore, has a new fishing master. Check Wowhead for their locations. Only one master is active each day, and they will follow a set rotation. Today is Shaleth, whom you'll find at the aquarium in Suramar. And also check out Wowhead's news page for a list of who's active each day, along with other nifty information that I'd never seen before. You will fish up each master's special token just as you do with Margos. These tokens will stack to 100 and then be sure to turn them in. Otherwise, you'll not get credit for any more catches. It's best to check out the Looking for Group feature, as it will increase your chance of someone getting a special item needed to call the mini boss that will turn the water sparkly and give you a 100% bonus to getting that master's special tokens. Each fishing master sells toys and other specific items. You can purchase the Ghost Shark companion pet from Alicia of the Waters, who's found in Azuna. This pet is cageable, so if you really love fishing, you'll have a good item to place on the auction house. And you still have one more week to head out to Brewfest and earn enough tokens to purchase the Elemental. And have you tried battling Environneer Bert? I have, and he's not too hard. I went in with a Fell Flame, a Dark Phoenix Hatchling, and my Pandaren Fire Spirit. I didn't need to use the Fire Spirit. It might be possible then to level a pet here. It may be if it's around level 15 or higher. And that's all your WoW pet news for today.
Awesome. And then there's
Getting Deeps with Joe Bowie.
Keep rolling those relinquished relics. On the bottom floor of the Vindicar up on Argus, Thaumaturge, whatever his first name is, Vashreen, is standing around waiting for you to use up your Veiled Argonite. While it might not be a bad idea to buy up other pieces of gear, one thing you can always go for is relics. All the relics start off at 910, but they can Warforge and Titan Forge up to a much higher item level. I've personally had them Titan Forge up to 925, but I've also heard about relinquished relics going as high as 955. You can also look for a relic with that extra special trait that you just can't live without. Also, don't forget to check out the relics if you get in the Crucible to see what the second and third level traits for them are. So don't stop rolling on those relinquished relics and keep getting those deeps.
and our tanking address.
What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress?
This week's Come At Me a Tanking Minute is all about low-level tanking. All this rolling low tune levels has got me intrigued with how do you level a low-level tank? Well, I've rolled a warrior, first time I've ever done that, only because it's the nearest and dearest thing to my heart, next to a pally, that is. Something that wears plate and can walk through and pretty much be invulnerable to most things, except for those pesky magic users. So today I thought I'd just touch on a couple of the very basics of low-level tanking. When you start tanking at a low level, you don't have a lot of tools in your toolbox, not a lot of tricks to work with. But that's not a bad thing. That's a great way to begin to get comfortable with your tune, its capacity, and get used to some of the basic low-level abilities. So first off, for the ABCs of tanking is look for any abilities that are going to give you threat. So as you get new talents and as you start to level up, always look at the talent, read the text, and see when it says things like generates additional threat or is used to create threat. Many abilities have that. Sometimes they talk about multiple mobs. Sometimes they talk about single mobs. Those sorts of abilities, right from the get-go, should get high priority on your keys if you're using just straight up keys, or if you use key bindings or some other technique to have high priority abilities. Those ones that generate threat should definitely be way up on your list. Now, assuming you have heirloom gear or other things like that, you're not really going to be in terribly much danger for, a good 80 to 90 levels. So you won't have to worry too much about dying in most instances. You won't have to worry about mobs getting loose and killing other people. It's a great way to just start to learn and get familiar with how tanking works. So first thing is, start to look at abilities threat, figure out what's going to help you. Second thing you need to do, find your taunt button. The most important thing a tank can do is say, hey buddy, over here, come at me. So pretty early on, you'll get that taunt, especially if you're running in proc or protection or tanking spec, so that you'll be able to get everything coming at you, getting attention. You're going to need it from time to time. You'll see a mob run off and go and chew on a healer. They generally don't like that, even if they're uber geared at low levels. So you want to figure out what's the way I'm going to get their attention. So taunt, very important thing you'll need to know. Third thing you'll need to know, and this is a little tricky if you don't know some of the old instances that are going back on old content, you need to be in front. When DPS go in front of you, things get a little out of whack. Maybe they're going to kill the mobs quicker at low levels, and that's sort of okay. But don't be afraid and hang back a little bit. Run willy-nilly in front of any DPS. Use any speed boosts you might have found to discover, and keep up ahead of them. Grab all those mobs. The sooner you hit them, the more likely they're going to keep coming at you. And as you go along, you keep an eye out for anything that's AoE, and you'll find it easier and easier to grab multiple mobs all at once. It'll be a little running amok for a while, but that's kind of part of the fun. So that's Come At Me, a tanking minute.
Awesome. And then there's
I need a healer. I'm holding up for a healer till the end of the run. They gotta be skilled and they gotta be calm and they gotta be second to none. I need a healer.
It's Tapachino's Tap into the Healing Minute. When you're a new healer, you may be a bit nervous about doing your first dungeon. If you have dungeon experience as a DPS or a tank, you kind of know what to expect. But if you've never done a dungeon before, and you are responsible for keeping your group alive, it can be a bit daunting. Ideally, when you go into dungeons for the first time, or any time really, it's nice if you can go with people you know, like guildies or friends. If that's not possible, there is nothing wrong, and I actually encourage it. Tell your party that you are new to healing and to please be patient. 9 times out of 10, you'll get a, hey, no problem, the group will be great, and not go crazy if you make a mistake. If that one time you get groans, don't take it to heart. Most people playing WoW are great, and as we know, we've all been there at least once. So take the plunge, be prepared by knowing your spec, and have fun. The next thing you know, you'll be healing your first raid. And that's my Tap into the Healing Minute.
fantastic. All right. It's WFN News, Warcraft Faffer News. The Mage Tower is actually complete, but it should be there by the time this broadcasts at the Broken Shores. It has Fell Treasures and Knowledgeable. The weekly quest is the Legion Dungeon event. WoW tokens are at 164,000, went up a little bit from last. That's in the States. Brewfest, Harvest Festival, both end Friday. The Dark Moon Fair started Sunday, and our guild missed its first trap. Yeah. So,
Woohoo!
drum roll,
For a while.
please. Perfect. The winner,
Sounds good.
the winner of our Pirate Transmog tiebreaker is JobUui.
Congratulations.
Yay!
Congratulations,
Man, I tell you
JobUui.
what, it was close, and it was funny because Donna Bell really wanted to know who it was early so she could get started on a drawing because she's going to draw the winner of the Transmog contest. she texts me on Facebook, and I'm like, let me go look. I come back and I go, it's still a tie. So I added up all the ones we had done in for the guild, and then all the ones the fans had done, and it was a tie. So
Wow.
I told everybody in the guild, and when we were live streaming, I said, look, we got to go break this tie. Everybody's got to go vote. And I think, what was it, Charity? She was doing a campaign for JobUui this week.
No,
Um,
against me, actually.
Oh, was it against you?
Yeah, because she thought I had won the last Transmog contest, and so she was doing a campaign against me, or for Dizzy, because she thought I had won the last one, and then she found out that I didn't win the last one, and then she was all like, "Whoops."
Oops. Yeah. So congratulations, JoeBuoy, on a Pirate
Thank you.
Transmog. Yes, I think it's awesome that between the guild people, we can't make up our mind.
But that was a lot of fun to do. Doing little extra
Yeah.
stuff like this. It's just
Yeah.
a riot.
So, all right, guys, we are out of time. I want to thank Charm for all of our beautiful music. Please go visit her website and her YouTube channel. Subscribe to her. The links are below in the description. Plus, BenSound from bensound.com. He does JoeBuoy's little musical minute. And don't forget, please, go to Scarlet Crusade and get yourself a level 1 gnome and join us. Put LPT in front of your name and join us for our first ever gnome race, October 14th. Thanks,
Be a lot
everybody,
of
for
fun.
coming. Yeah, it's going to be a blast.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night.
If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is Lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lions Pride Tavern podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.